Good afternoon and welcome to the International Science Symposium 2021 on recent trends in science and technology, organized by Christ College Rajkot, sponsored by GSBTM and Gujarat. Science is organized life. Wisdom is organized life again. So when we say science is organized knowledge, wisdom is organized life. Today, we have gathered here to update and upgrade ourselves by the symbiosis of science and technology to make life worthwhile. Pleasant greetings of the day to the President of International Science Symposium 2021, Your Excellency Bishop Jose Chittuparambil, Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Nitin Pethani, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Saurashtra University, distinguished keynote speaker, Professor Gunnar C. Hansen, Head, Mucin Biology Groups, University of Gothenburg, Sweden. Our esteemed guests of honor, Dr. Mehul Rupani, Dean, Faculty of Science, Saurashtra University, and Professor Girish Bhimani, other than Dean and Syndicate Member, Faculty of Science, Saurashtra University. Patron of International Science Symposium 2021, Reverend Father Dr. Jomon Thomanna, Director, Christ Campus. Symposium Chair, Dr. Yvonne Fernandez, Principal, Christ College Rajkot. Symposium Convener, Dr. Padma Ambalam, Assistant Professor, Department of Biotechnology, Christ College Rajkot. Symposium Co-Convener, Dr. Charmi Kothari, Head, Department of Biotechnology. Erudite members of the academia, respected faculty members, and the scholarly participants from various parts of India and around the globe. I, Bhavisha Vyas, Assistant Professor from the Department of English, Christ College, welcome you all with pride and pleasure to the International Science Symposium 2021 on recent trends in science and technology, organized by Christ College, Rajkot, sponsored by GSBTM and Gujarat. Christ College, Rajkot has organized 12 national and 1 international science symposiums. As evident it is, as we are about to complete the second decade of the 21st century, we are struck by a sense of wonder and bewilderment looking at breakthroughs in science and technology. Science is a progressive medium for the development of mankind, as it makes our lives easy by harnessing technology for the collective good. Fundamentally, it shapes our lives through futuristic inventions, innovations, and discoveries, both at micro and macro level. However, the big challenge for scientists across the world is to ensure that the scientific as well as technological innovations are focused at the inclusive growth and sustainable development so that our today's solutions don't turn to be the problems of tomorrow. Therefore, the symposium aims at an exposure to the latest developments in various fields of science and technology, a platform to interact with eminent scientists and subject experts, knowledge enhancement in concerned areas, career guidance for subject selection for higher studies, an opportunity to strengthen an inter-institutional collaboration and institute-industry networking. Proceeding further, prayer should not be regarded as a duty which must be performed, but rather as a privilege to be enjoyed, a rare delight that is always revealing some new beauty. Let us commence the International Science Symposium 2021 in the traditional Indian classical style of offering our prayers to the Almighty, who is the source of strength, knowledge, and creativity. I invite Ms. Palak Baburia, student of Christ College, to perform a prayer dance.
लंबोदरं विशालाक्षं वन्देऽहं गणनायकम् गाये गणपति जगवन्दन
Thank you, Ms. Palak, for the prayer dance, reflecting the essence of Bharatanatyam with Sanskrit shlokas, traditional costumes, and jewelry. Light gives it off freely, filling all available space. It does not seek anything in return. It gives it off freely and thereby not diminished. On this online forum, let us virtually light the lamp, which is symbolic of enlightenment and true knowledge that dispels ignorance, thereby liberating the seeker. I now take this opportunity to request the Principal of Christ College Rajkot, Dr. Yvonne Fernandez, who is also the Symposium Chair, to welcome the guests and participants.
President of the Symposium, Most Reverend Bishop Jose Chittiparambil, Bishop Diocese of Rajkot, Chief Guest Professor Nitin Petani, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Saurashtra University, Keynote Speaker of the Day, Professor Gunnar C. Hansen, Guests of Honor Dr. Mehul Rupani and Professor G.C. Bhimani, Campus Director and Patron of the Symposium, Reverend Father Dr. Joman Tamanna, Principals of our sister concerns, Dr. K.J. Tankachan and Ms. Nymphia Gogia, Heads of various departments of Saurashtra Universities, Principals and faculty members of various colleges, distinguished guests, esteemed judges, the convener of the symposium, Dr. Padma Ambalam, and the co-convener, Dr. Charmi Kothari, esteemed members on the staff of Christ College, delegates to the symposium, and my very dear students. With immense pleasure, I welcome you all to the second International Science Symposium 2021 on the recent trends in science and technology, organized by Christ College Rajkot and sponsored by Gujarat State Biotechnology Mission and by Gujarat Council on Science and Technology. Christ Campus, a center of higher learning, includes 3 different institutes: Christ Art, Science and Commerce College, Christ Polytechnic Institute offering diploma engineering courses, and Christ Institute of Management offering MBA and integrated MBA programs. Started in 1998, Christ College is known for spreading quality education to the young generation. The college has always endeavored to provide a platform for the comprehensive development of the students. Affiliated to Saurashtra University and recognized by the UGC, the college offers bachelor courses in science, commerce, management, arts, and computer applications, and a postgraduate program, MSc Microbiology. The college also offers a 1-year postgraduate diploma in computational biology, which is funded by the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, New Delhi. Christ College is also accorded the financial support for strengthening of life science and biotechnology education and training at the undergraduate level under the Star College Scheme, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. Along with ensuring that our students achieve academic excellence, the college organizes activities that lead to multidimensional development of the students. Since 2002, the college has been organizing national and international conferences, workshops, and symposia that expose the students and faculty to the latest global developments in relevant academic arenas. So far, we have organized 12 national and 1 international science symposia. Today, we are here at the second International Science Symposium. This is an event much awaited by the entire science fraternity in this region, and we feel the need to keep up the spirit. Considering the current pandemic situation and the magnitude of the event, it was a difficult call. We have all adapted well to a change in our classroom teaching pedagogy, and so the entire organizing team was well prepared to take up the challenges of going online. This International Science Symposium 2021 on the recent trends in science and technology is sponsored by Gujarat State Biotechnology Mission and by Gujarat Council on Science and Technology. I take this opportunity to place on record my deepest gratitude to GSBTM and Gujarat for the financial support in organizing this event. It is a matter of immense pleasure to welcome the President of the Symposium, His Excellency Bishop Jose Chittiparambil, the Bishop of the Diocese of Rajkot. On behalf of the entire Christ College family, I extend a hearty welcome to you, Your Excellency. Thank you for accepting our invitation and for gracing this function. Your presence inspires and reassures each one of us on our campus. A warm welcome to you, Your Excellency. I extend a hearty welcome to our chief guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Saurashtra University, Professor Nitin Bethani, a highly versatile academician and administrator. Sir is known to be a dynamic, efficient, and visionary leader and has been rendering his expert services at various programs and as member of various selection committees. Sir, your presence at our function indeed is very encouraging and motivating. We are honored by your consent to grace this function as a chief guest. A hearty welcome to you, sir. The keynote speaker of the day is Professor Gunnar C. Hansen, a renowned scientist in the field of medical biochemistry. Sir heads the Mucin Biology Group, University of Gothenburg, Sweden. He has published many scientific articles, received various grants for research, and won many awards. Recently, Professor Gunnar C. Hansen has been awarded the Royal Swedish King Medal of the 8th size with the ribbon of the Order of Seraphim for his meritorious achievements in the field of medical research. We are extremely fortunate and privileged to have a scientist of eminence interacting with us today. A hearty welcome to you, sir. At this symposium, we also look forward to the interaction with Nobel laureate Professor Peter Doherty during the question answer session to be held tomorrow at 8 a.m. Indian Standard Time. We are indeed honored and privileged. On behalf of all of us present at this inaugural function, I extend a very warm welcome to the Nobel laureate Professor Peter Doherty, the 1996 Nobel Medical Prize winner for the discoveries in transplantation and killer T-cell mediated immunity, the new forays in cancer treatment. I extend a very warm welcome to our guest of honor, Dr. Mehul Rupani, Syndicate Member and Dean of the Faculty of Science of Saurashtra University. We are grateful to you, sir, for your consent to attend this inaugural function. The readiness with which you are accepted our invitation is indeed reassuring. A warm welcome to you, sir. I extend a cordial welcome to our guest of honor, Professor G.C. Bhimani, Syndicate Member and other than Dean of the Faculty of Science of Saurashtra University. Professor Bhimani has been closely associated with our college since its inception and has been ever obliging and encouraging with his presence at most of our function. It's a pleasure to welcome you, sir, to this inaugural function. I also extend a wholehearted welcome to Reverend Father Dr. Joman Tamana, the Director of Christ Campus. We are fortunate to have the presence of the Director 24/7 on our campus, providing direction and support whenever required. We appreciate the involvement of our Director in planning and execution of this event. A hearty welcome to you, Father. I acknowledge the presence of the principals of our sister concern, Dr. K.J. Tankachan, Principal, Christ Institute of Management, and Ms. Nymphia Gogia, Principal, Christ Polytechnic Institute. On behalf of the entire Christ family, I extend a warm welcome to you, sir and ma'am. I take this opportunity to welcome the heads of Department of Saurashtra University, senior professors of Saurashtra University and other universities, principals and faculty members of various colleges. A warm welcome to each one of you. A special welcome to the judges of various events to be organized during the symposium. Your consent to evaluate the competition speaks of your commitment towards enhancing the quality of education in this region. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the representatives from the press and electronic media and thank them for the coverage given to this event. With immense pleasure, I welcome the convener of the symposium, Dr. Padma Ambalam, and the co-convener, Dr. Charmi Kothari, who along with the entire organizing team have been working tirelessly to make this symposium a grand success. I would also like to extend a special welcome to all my dear and esteemed members on the staff of Christ College, the distinguished delegates to the symposium, and my very dear students. In conclusion, I wish all the delegates a very fruitful interaction and every success in your deliberations and presentations. Once again, I cordially welcome you all to this International Science Symposium 2021, organized by Christ College and sponsored by GSBTM and Gujarat. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a warm and pleasant welcome address to the participants of International Science Symposium 2021. Reverend Father Dr. Jomon Thomanna is the Director, Christ Campus, and the patron of International Science Symposium 2021. I would now like to humbly invite Father for his directorial address.
Your Excellency, Bishop Jose Chittuparambil, Bishop of Rajkot, and the President of the Symposium, Dr. Nitin Tani, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Saurashtra University and Chief Guest of this Symposium, Professor Peter Doherty, Professor Gunnar Hansen, Dr. Mehul Rubani, Dr. Girish Bhimani, Dr. Juan Fernandez, Dr. Padma Ambalam, Dr. Charmi Kothari, my dear delegates from across the globe. It's my pleasure and privilege to be part of International Science Symposium 2021, organized by Christ College, Rajkot. COVID-19 has made us to explore the new possibilities amidst this pandemic, to organize an international science symposium in this present manner. Or else it would have been an on-campus event. I'm grateful to GSBTM and Good Cost for their support and assistance. We are today privileged to have the icons of knowledge and inspiration as part of this science symposium. Science and technology, as we know, is rapidly progressing in this world with a global impact on the society and lives of people. And this symposium, in which the delegates from across the globe participate and inspire every delegates to learn the recent trends in science and technology across the globe. And that is the aim of this symposium. And I am sure this science symposium will imprint on our minds the latest trends in science and technology. I wish you all a fruitful participation on this International Science Symposium 2021 organized by Christ College, Rajkot. Wishing you all the best. Remain. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. I believe your greetings and good wishes for the participants will definitely be great for them in the further technical sessions. Our guest of honor for International Science Symposium 2021 is Professor Girish Bhimani, Syndicate Member and other than Dean, Faculty of Science, Saurashtra University. Mr. Girish Bhimani is a professor of statistics and former head of the Department of Statistics. He has been having various academic and administrative positions at university and other institutions of national and international repute. He has visited various countries as an acclaimed researcher. Sir has a vast volume of scholarly achievements and publications in his name. His constant endeavor has been to establish an industry-institute linkage in order to promote innovation to serve the nation. A committed persona with dynamic enthusiasm. May I now humbly invite our guest of honor for International Science Symposium 2021, Professor Girish Bhimani, to greet the virtual forum.
Good afternoon to all of you. It's give me an immense pleasure to be with all of you through online virtually on the occasion of International Science Symposia 2021. And so the beauty of the Science Symposia, that the theme of the Science Symposia, that is recent trend in science and technology. When we think about recent trend in science and technology, when we think about the International Symposia, it means a lot. As far as the symposia or recent trend in science and technology is concerned, why we are doing all these things. But before explaining this, it's my pleasure to thanks entire my Christ family. In this inaugural function, we are having His Excellency Bishop, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Saurashtra University, my dear and nearest brother cum friend, Director Father Joman, my elder sister, and the principal of the college, Dr. Fernandez, and entire team of Christ College. Say, when we are doing such type of activities, what is the main aim? Particularly if we think that, best of my knowledge, the aim is to bring together leading academic scientists, researchers, and the research scholars to exchange and share their experience and research result on all aspects of recent trend in science and technology. It also provides a premier interdisciplinary platform for the researcher, participants, and educators to present and discuss the most recent innovations, trends, and the concerns, as well as the practical challenges encountered and solution adopted in the field of research, recent trend in science and technology. When we use that word, science and technology, in the current scenario, from the last 1 year, we are facing the good, I use that word, that good and the best practice due to COVID-19, and that is the virtual classroom, or we can say that online classroom. What is this? This is nothing but the recent trend in information and technology. If we see, or if we go, the 3-dimension printing molecules, it is also the recent trend in technology. If we consider the problem of environment, energy and climate change, the energy efficient water treatments, what is this? This is nothing but the recent trend in technology and science. Self-healing batteries, net zero concept, and beyond smart grids, zero power sensor, and ocean wiring and sensing. All these are the recent trend. It is a humble request from my side to all dear participants. So you should take care and you should learn something from the keynote speaker. See, keynote speaker generally in common phenomena, we are doing that the keynote speaker says something, we least concerned about them. But nowadays, you have to make the concentration on the keynote speaker. See, keynote speaker speaks of something that will be benefit. From that words, entire society will get the benefit. Dear participant, it is my experience because I spent more than 35 years in the academy line. I visited what the anchor says, that I visited lots of countries, particularly in a field for the academia and for the research. As far as this international symposium is concerned, dear delegates and dear participants, don't take it easy. Try to learn something. Principal rightly mentioned regarding the teaching pedagogy. In that, from the beginning, I use that word. Nowadays, the entire globe transforming themselves from teaching pedagogy to learning pedagogy. And the meaning of learning is nothing but by using such type of international symposia, and the theme that is recent trends in science and technology. So I'm very much thankful to the entire my Christ family. Not only that, the Gujarat State Biotech Mission and Gujarat to give the sponsorship to the crown of mine university, that is Saurashtra University, the crown of mine university, that is nothing but the entire Christ campus. So I wish a grand success, and dear delegates, try to learn and try to get something from such type of international symposia. And again, I wish a grand success to this international science symposia. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bhimani sir, for your constant support and greetings, which has been purely motivational for Christ College. The chief guest for International Science Symposium 2021 is Professor Nitin Pethani, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Saurashtra University, Rajkot. Sir, we feel honored to have you here with us in International Science Symposium 2021, organized by Christ College, Rajkot. Professor Pethani holds a doctoral degree in psychology, having a rich experience of serving various academic bodies, holding prestigious positions and ranks. Sir has been the chief academic advisor in an internationally acclaimed research journal, as well as has been a member of the high-profile committee formed by the instruction of Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat. Sir is a recipient of many awards, recognition, and accolades, one of which is the Best Educationalist Award presented by Awakening India for Modifying Society. A resource person who has undertaken several research projects, who has also participated in worthy conferences, seminars, and workshops. He is on the expert panel in various academic institutions and has published a number of research papers and books related to disaster management and personality development. An aura who has undertaken numerous social responsibilities as well. He is a man of vision and a fountainhead of illuminating ideas. May I now invite our chief guest, Professor Nitin Pethani, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Saurashtra University, for his speech.
Good afternoon, all of you. Presidential presence, Bishop Jose. Guest of honor, Professor Girish Bhimani, Adjunct Dean, Science Faculty, Saurashtra University. Director, Father Zoman. Principal, Fernandez. Or other delegates. Today, we are here at the inaugural ceremony of the International Science Symposium 2021. This is the second international level science symposium organized by Christ College, Rajkot, which has the distinct of being the first ever online symposium in keeping with the norms of the COVID-19 pandemic. The great philosopher Aristotle rightly said, we are what we repeatedly do, excellent. Then is not an act, but a habit. The college has been organizing national level science symposium annually since 2005. The aims of the symposium is to provide a platform of science students to interact with the eminent scientists in their field. Keep abstract with the modern developments in science and technology, and also provide career guidance, while including in them the required competitive edge in oral and poster presentation. The vision statement of Saurashtra University is to be at the vanguard to knowledge in the domain of higher learning and achieve the highest global standards. The mission statement includes the achievement of the excellence in teaching and research, the empowerment of learners in achieving their professional goal, and strengthening of the educational professional interface. To this end, the International Science Symposium organized by Christ College adhere to the vision and mission of the Saurashtra University. As Vice Chancellor of Saurashtra University, my message to be students is that technology and knowledge will be the key position, and also this will be the most sought after within the country and around the world. Therefore, it is our duty to help generate ideas which will benefit of society, educated and train people to work in the field where there we will value for the specialized knowledge. Also, my prime priority is to provide quality enhanced in the education and interface standard with the local and national need offered by institutional affiliated to Saurashtra University and facilitating institute offered to nature good faculty. Thus, it is my great pleasure to be the part of this function in keeping with the tradition to the inviting eminent scientists for various fields. The students this year will get an excellent opportunity to interact with the Professor Peter Destry, the 1916 Nobel Prize winner in the medicine and physiology. And Professor Gunnar Hansen is a renowned scientist in the field of the medical biochemistry. Dr. Destry received the Nobel Prize for the discovery in the transplantation and killer T-cell medicated immunity. The new for us in cancer treatment. I urge the students to make the most of this the golden opportunity provided by Christ College. I end with the word of Confucius, the Chinese philosopher. The will to win, the desire to success, the urge to reach your full potential. These are the key that will unlock the door to personal excellence. I wish the management and the students all the best for the smooth conduct of the program. All the best. Thank you all.
Thank you, Petani sir, for your words of encouragement and extending your support whenever Christ College has required. May I now invite the President of International Science Symposium 2021, Most Reverend Bishop Jose Chittuparambil, for his presidential address, as well as the release of the proceedings towards the end.
A most hearty and warm welcome and greetings to all of you. The year 2020-21 has been very unusual and very difficult in the terms of the onslaught of the coronavirus, and the entire humanity has come under the grip of this pandemic. We have to learn new ways and new way of living and new way of thinking. As we know, change is very painful and never easy to accept. Nevertheless, we should learn to adjust, keeping the light of positivity in our own lives. Humanity has always been brave, and we have together survived so many such tough situations. It is time like this that enable us to look to God, the source of all strengths. Like all other areas, working of education and the teaching learning mode all have seen an unexpected change in this academic year. It has been a year of coping up with online education and the newer challenges it has brought along. I am happy and proud to note that Christ College Rajkot has adopted to this change very well. I congratulate Father Jomon Thomana, the director, Dr. Ivan Fernandez, the principal, and all the members of the staff who have left no stone unturned to keep up the momentum of academics, even in these testing times. Dear friends, I am glad to know that the International Science Symposium 2021 on recent trends in science and technology is held this year also, as in the previous years. It is a proud feature of the college and endeavor to stay updated regarding the recent trends in science and technology. I am very glad to know about the presence of Nobel laureate in physiology and medicine, Professor Peter Doherty from Australia, and the keynote speaker, Professor Gunnar Hansen from the University of Gothenburg, Sweden. I am sure the participants will benefit a lot from the rich experience and scholarly address of these speakers. Professor Hansen is a renowned scientist in the field of medical science, and his understanding of health and disease will definitely benefit our participants. I believe the question and answer session with the Nobel laureate Professor Peter Doherty on COVID-19 will address many related issues. Dear friends, in today's society, an integrated look towards science and technology is indispensable. It is an interdisciplinary approach that will facilitate the understanding of the challenges of the century and focus its attention on path-breaking solutions to the problems that have the potential to become bottlenecks in the overall growth of our nations. But platforms like this Science Symposium provide the ground for the required convergence in basic sciences, applied technology, and research. May there be fruitful deliberation and challenging discussions. I place on record my gratitude to Professor Nitin Petani, the Vice Chancellor of Saurashtra University, for his support to this venture of our college. I also appreciate the online presence of Dr. Mehul Rupani, the Dean Faculty of Science, and Professor Girish Bhimani, other than the Dean, the Faculty of Science of Saurashtra University. I am sure this International Symposium 2021 by Christ College will be a great success. I pray for God's abundant blessings for the success of this symposium, and I offer my prayerful best wishes to all of you. Now, before concluding, I am very happy to release the proceedings of this symposium. With these words, I conclude and thank each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you for your blessings and support, which is so unflinching and perennial, Your Excellency. With this, the proceedings of International Science Symposium 2021 has been released. The keynote speaker for the International Science Symposium is Professor Gunnar C. Hansen, Head, Mucin Biology Department, University of Gothenburg, Sweden. We feel honored and privileged to have you here with us as a keynote speaker for the International Science Symposium 2021. Professor Hansen completed his basic education from Medical School, University of Gothenburg, and received his Läkarexamen, which is in Swedish, and in English it means his medical degree in 1976. During his scientific training, he was titled as docent in medical and physiological chemistry in 1983. Sir also acquired his postdoctoral degree in June 1984 from National Institute of Health, Bethesda, MD, USA. And from 1998 onwards, he has been working as the full professor of medical biochemistry, Department of Medical Biochemistry, Gothenburg University. Moreover, he has been a member of the Royal Society of Arts and Sciences in Gothenburg, as well as the Royal Society of Sciences. Professor Hansen's key research area includes understanding the role of mucin in health and disease, and is a world leader in research into mucin and mucus biology. Sir has to his credit more than 270 scientific publications, of which original PNAS publication 2008 is cited 54 times a year on average and 88 times in 2016. Professor Hansen is a scholarly persona who has a rich and vivid experience in research guidance, having guided 20 PhD candidates, trained more than 40 postdoctoral students. He has also been invited as an external PhD examiner and has visited universities in Denmark, Norway, Australia, and Ireland. Furthermore, he has received grants from across the world, including prestigious funding agencies like NIH USA. Professor Hansen was recently, in February 2021, awarded HRH, the King's Medal of the 8th size, with the ribbon of the Order of the Seraphim for his outstanding contribution in medical research, especially into the rare disease called cystic fibrosis. We heartily congratulate you, sir, for this honor. May I now request Professor Gunnar Hansen, keynote speaker for International Science Symposium 2021, for his keynote address on specialized levels of intestinal mucus protection as provided by subsets goblet cells.
Okay, thank you very much for your invitation, and I hope I'm coming up. I will let me just see disabled. Okay. Okay, so I would like to thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm honored to hear all these very nice words for me, and especially seeing all the very honorable people that has been addressing this symposium. So by that, I would like to start my talk and would like to share my screen, but you need then to allow me to share my screen. I guess host disabled participant, because it seems, yes.
So you can share your screen, the rights have been given to you.
No, it says I can't host disabled participant screen sharing. You need to allow me to do that.
So you are allowed to do that. You can share your screen, sir.
Yes, now I can do that. Thank you. So I will today talk to you about mucus and mucins, and as some of you know, is that we are protected on our outside by the skin, which is about 1.5 square meter of dead cells, and which is kind of easy to understand, that is kind of separating us from the rest of the world. What people don't always think about is that we also have an inner part which has to be protected. For example, the gastrointestinal tract, which is the biggest part, is like a football or soccer arena in its total area which you're protected, and which have a very single layer of cells which are protecting us. But on top of that, there is a mucus, which is what I'm going to talk about. We have the same type of system in the lungs. This is about the tennis court, and also in this case, there is a mucous system which is protecting us. When you think about the intestine, it's kind of important to remember that the content of the intestinal system is not belonging to us. Because if it were like that, then we should be more bacteria than humans, because the number of bacteria in the intestine is similar or sometimes even higher than the number of cells we have in the whole body. So this is an extremely important protective system. And the thing is that without this mucous system that is separating us from the bacteria, we should suffer diseases of many types. And I will talk a little bit about that towards the end. But what we have worked on is this kind of mucous system. And the interesting thing is that these are different in the small intestine and the large intestine. In the small intestine, we have a mucus which is covering the surface, and it is allowing bacteria to penetrate, but then they're also killed, so they're not really coming into contact with us. When it comes to colon, we have a 2-layered system, which we published first 2008, and where the bacteria are separated by an inner mucus layer, which is more or less impenetrable to bacteria, and an outer mucus layer where the bacteria can swim and eat. And I will describe this in much more detail when you're coming further on. The most important part of the mucus protective system of the body is the mucins. And these are enormously big molecules which are heavily coated by carbohydrates. And there are 2 types of them. There is this membrane type, which is coating the epithelial cells of the gastrointestinal tract, where you have around 5,000 amino acids, which are extending about 1 micrometer away from the cells, and by that coating the surface and prohibiting bacteria to reach down to the surface. These are about 80% carbohydrates, which are these green ones, and which is central protein core. These domains are looking like bottle brushes because they are so densely coated, so they're usually more than 80% of the mass is carbohydrates. And the interesting thing is that this type of carbohydrates are non-digestible by ourselves. So in the intestinal tract, these are not degraded, and they remain like that. It's only bacteria and the distal part of the intestine which can degrade these type of things. Most of the talk today will be about gel-forming mucins, which are produced by goblet cells. And these are forming polymers. And again, these are around 5,000 amino acids in one of these. And they're heavily coated with carbohydrates to making up more than 80% of the total mass. And again, non-degradable by the intestinal system. So in fact, these 2 type of molecules are extremely important for protecting our intestine. And it also is they who are responsible for that we're not eating ourselves. Because if you think about it, we have a digestive system with enzymes which are able to degrade more or less any type of food, except fibers. But we're not degrading ourselves. We're not eating ourselves in the normal case. So mucus is, as I said, is the most important thing to protect our internal surfaces. And these have working along 2 principles. One is to clean the surfaces and wash away bacteria. This is what is the most important thing for the lungs in the normal case, because there we don't have very much bacteria. And the important part of that is to to trap and to wash away. But the other part, which I'm going to talk most about, is that they are physically protecting and coating surfaces. And this is something which was not really fully understood before we started into this field. And important of mucus is that it is really a lot of water. So it's more than 95% water. And this is because all these carbohydrates can bind all the water. These mucins, these gel-forming mucins, they're forming different type of polymers. And we have 4 in the body, and the one we have in the intestine is like this. It's 5,130 amino acids. And in the central part here, we have all the glycans. But these parts here is assembled into long polymers, so you can form dimers in this end, and in this end you can form dimers or trimers, which means that you can form enormously big molecules. In fact, these type of molecules are probably the biggest molecule we have in the body, because every monomer like this, when there is full of carbohydrates, is 2.5 million Dalton, and then they form enormous polymers, so they are probably in the size almost like chromosomes. The mucins are evolutionary very old. It turns out that this gel-forming type of mucins, they appear in the early Metazoan time. That is at the same time as we developed the simplest type of digestive system. So they're closely related to digestion and protecting the digestive systems. And then we follow them all the way through evolution, and up in the mammalians, we have, as you saw before, 4 different mucins. But on the way here, we have many more. For example, the fishes have it on the surface, but the most abundant number of mucins we have in the frogs, where there is some 25 different molecules, because they have it also on the surface. We don't have it on the surface, but they have it on the surface. These type of molecules were lost on the insect side, but there are remnants of this type of molecules. One is called hemolectin, which is there to prohibit leakage of hemolymph, and also to trap bacteria. In fact, we have a molecule here on the animal side, which is called von Willebrand factor, which is a part of the coagulation system, and that was derived from the mucin types, because it's also is involved in forming polymers. So in fact, one can say that the goblet cell, when it came up here, it was long before we have had any immune system, and it is probably the first line of defense against bacteria and other microorganisms. So the main molecule of the intestine is what we call the mucin number 2, or MUC2, as I will call it. And it looks like this. You have 1,200 amino acids in the N-terminal end, you have 800 in the C-terminal end, and then you have this long, extended, bottle brush-like stiff rod, which is about forming 0.5 micrometer long thread. And as I said, it's 2.5 million size in its mass. These are assembled inside the goblet cells and stored in what is called granule inside the goblet cells. And they have to be stored in such a way that they can expand around 1,000-fold when they come out from the cell, because they are stored very densely, and when they come out, they become hydrated, and then of course they need to be organized in such a way that they don't entangle too much. Everybody knows if you have a electric cord or a hose in the garden and try to entangle these, they will always they cannot always entangle totally, because they are forming knots and things like that. So this has to be stored in a very specific way, allowing this. And this is an animation which is suggesting how we think it works, where they are held together in this N-terminal end here, and when the calcium and the pH is increased, the calcium ions are removed and the pH increased. These kind and flop open into net-like structures. And in fact, if one look how it works, is that the cells which are secreting are expanding the mucins, and it's forming to this inner mucus layer, which is 0.50 micrometers in the mouse, roughly, and about 200 micrometers or 0.2 millimeters in the humans, which is forming this so-called inner mucus layer. And then this is renewed all the time. And in fact, it is that coming from here to here, which means renewing this inner mucus layer, it takes around 1 hour in the mouse. On the humans, we don't exactly know. It should probably take a little bit longer time. But what it tells us is that it's going extremely quickly. But when we come, and this is forming these dense net-like structures, which is not allowing bacteria to penetrate. And one can look on this. So here is this inner mucus layer, a net-like. You can see how the nets are forming, and they are associating with the already formed, previously formed inner mucus layer. And then, as you can see, when we're going to turn around, is that the bacteria, which are brown on the other side, cannot penetrate. But then when you come to this interface here between the inner and the outer mucus layer, the mucins are expanding in such a way that the nets expand and the bacteria can penetrate and reach into this mucus layer. And by that, they can reach all the carbohydrates on the mucins, and they degrade these and use them for living on. If I look on pictures, one can see it like this. So here we have the surface of the epithelia. Here we have the inner mucus layer, which specially separates the red bacteria from us. And these bacteria out here, they are, as I said, they are using fibers from the food, or bacteria is also using the carbohydrates in the mucins, and then they're producing short fatty acids, which are then diffusing back to us and feeding the epithelia here. So it means that it's important for the bacteria to be able to recover a lot of this energy which we are using to protect ourselves. Because if we did not do that, we should lose too much energy, and it will cost us that we need to eat more. In fact, it is like this, that the germ-free animals lacking bacteria, which have a much lower renewal rate of the mucous system here, they still need to eat 50% more food to maintain their weight. So it means that it's extremely important that we can recover most of the energy which you're spending on producing this type. So this inner mucus layer, it is a physical barrier, and it contains, in addition to the MAC2 mucin, a few other molecules which we'll discuss later on. It's also important to understand that this physical barrier acts as a filter. And in fact, we a couple of years ago, we discovered a protein which is binding to gram-positive bacteria, and the others has been studying the IgA antibodies. And all of these are aggregating bacteria. And when you aggregate in bacteria, they are becoming bigger, of course. And when they become bigger, they're easily moved further away from us, and by that protecting us. And it turns out that if you look in an animal which is lacking this ZG16 protein, the bacteria are not aggregated, and you get more bacteria that penetrate into the host, and you can also get more obesity. So you can see how these fat pads in the abdomen is increased in these animals, suggesting that if bacteria penetrate into us, we have seeing more of the Western type of diseases, as I will discuss later on also. So now I will turn into one of our main tools we have developed. It is to make an animal which is having a red and fluorescent MAC2 mucin. So down here you see these red dots here are all goblet cells, and because these animals is making a MAC2 mucin which is fluorescently red. And by that, if you can make a mouse like that, you can also isolate the goblet cells. Goblet cells defined as cells which are making mucins, and we have done that. And you can see here how it is to separate out the goblet cells from other cells of the surface of the large intestine, for example. When you do that and analyze the proteins, you find a number of proteins which are enriched in the goblet cells, and also can look on the mRNA. Of course, since a lot of the proteins are stored in granules, you have much higher levels when you look on proteins relative than you looked on the mRNA levels. One can also classify that there is not only one thing. It was believed until recently that there is only one type of goblet cells and behaving in the same way. But we have a paper coming out in Science next week showing that there is a number of different goblet cells. There are different goblet cells in the small intestine and in the large intestine. And in the large intestine, we have classified up to 8 different types of goblet cells with different characteristics. And one can cluster these into different groups, and one is what we call the canonical ones, which are the more typical classical goblet cells. But we also have a subset of other goblet cells which are non-canonical, which means that they have more features that are similar to other types of cells, and some of them are a little bit more immune cell-like, and others are a little bit more enterocyte-like, and so on. And then we have also cells which I will discuss, which are on the surface and which are very specialized goblet cells. I will just make a short diversion from the large intestine to the small intestine and show you that also the small intestine have protective system which are specific. And of course, the most important thing is to protect the crypt where the stem cells are in the bottom from the surface here. And if one use our animals in this sets of figures, we have made the red, green, just to make it easy to see in this case. And what one can see here, if one stimulate with acetylcholine, which is a neuronal compound, you can clear the crypts, and you will see more of this on the next figure. We have made small intestinal entrails. So you have the surface, and down here you have the crypt bottom. And if you stimulate these crypts, you see that you generate a plume of mucus, which is then secreted out of the crypt. And of course, if there had been bacteria coming into this, they should have been expelled out from the crypt. We have studied this in more detail, and we know that the carbachol is working on the so-called M3 receptor, which is found in the crypt bottom here, and then it also is important that there is a collaboration between adjacent cells, and the CFTR channel is, as in cystic fibrosis, is very important, where you can see that you get expansion of the goblet cells, but you don't get the flushing. So the flushing comes from the neighboring cells, which are providing the ions and the water for making this flushing out. And there is the coupling between the different cells is because there is so-called gap junctions where the calcium ions, which are increased in the goblet cells, are then transferred to the adjacent cells. And if you do that, you see again that you don't get the flushing of the crypt. It stays the same way as it was before. When we did this, we also discovered that the goblet cells are secreting in a very specific ways. And one can see here that the granule, this is one goblet cell, and you can see the same thing here. This one goblet cell, you can, and you see the green dots here, which are granules, and they start to disappear in the top, and finally you have emptied them out like that. But the interesting thing is that this is not happening in the normal way when you have vesicles fusing with the membrane. Instead, what happens is that the granule inside the cells are expanding in volume and exploding inside the cell with an intact membrane, and then it starts to fill up inside the cell, and then finally it is releasing the mucus out from the goblet cells in such a way that it can form this type of plumes which we saw. So this, as I said before, these mucins are expanding roughly a total of 1,000 times, but that is when they come out from the cell, then they have all ions and water necessary for doing that. So by that, I'm coming back to the inner mucus layer, which is then separating the bacteria from us, and I will discuss this a little bit more in detail. If using Salmonella bacteria, which are possible to swim, one can see that the bacteria can swim in this outer mucus layer, or if you see it from the side as this, you can see out here, which is the outer mucus layer, the bacteria can swim, and there is also set of bacteria which is not swimming, which are sitting here, and this is the inner mucus layer. There is a few bacteria coming down at certain places, as one can see here. So most bacteria are swimming out here. There are bacteria in the interface here which are not swimming. And if you remember from the previous movies or previous discussion, these mucous mucins are forming a net-like structure, and most likely bacteria are trapped in it like a fishnet in this interface here. But then there are certain areas where the bacteria has possibility to penetrate more easily, and we did not understand that until recently, when we started to look and find that there is some specific goblet cells in the on the crypt lumen here, which we call the intercrypt goblet cells, and these are special subsets up here, and these are forming a slightly different type of mucins. It's also the MAC2 mucin, but it's forming it in a different way. So you can see that there is coming out from the crypt openings, there come in plumes like this, but in betweens are these intercrypt goblet cells secreting and forming also part of this system. And it turns out that these intercrypt goblet cells mucus is much more penetrable to beads of smaller beads, and which means that this explains why bacteria sometimes can swim and come down in between this. So from the beginning, we said we had a very uniform and even mucus layer. It turns out that it is not. It is a little more complicated. You have areas which is where the plumes come from the crypts. I would shortly talk about that. And then we have this intercrypt goblet cells, which is producing mucins, which are probably holding it. And then these together form this inner stratified mucus layer, as you can see here. In the crypt opening, there is a set of sentinel goblet cells which are responding to different agents from bacteria, and one of the most important one is LPS, which is produced, and it turns out that these goblet cells are tuned in such a way that they are triggered by the amount of LPS that you have in the lumen, but on the inside of the inner mucus layer, there is normally not so high LPS levels because there is not many bacteria down there, and these are not triggered. So what it is that this is sentinel goblet cells. There is one per each crypt, and it is secreting up on LPS stimulation, and one can see how it was secreting a plume out here, and by that it protecting the colon crypt. So if there is a breach in the mucus layer and bacteria can come down here, you can increase the amount of LPS. They stimulate the sentinel goblet cells. The sentinel goblet cells is activated. Then this stimulates via gap junctions, calcium transport to other cells, adjacent goblet cells, and together these goblet cells are producing a plume of mucus, which is then clearing and removing bacteria, and at the final end it shoots itself out into the lumen. So this way you are protecting the large intestine. In the Western world, we have a disease called ulcerative colitis. It's not very common in India, and in fact it is like this. It's really rare in India, and especially in the countryside and so on. You can see it sometimes in cities. But if people from India moves to US, for example, it's well known that they quite often develop colitis, and so it has to do with what you eat and what bacteria you have, and this is something which interests us a lot. And the interesting thing is that in this disease, one can see that that the bacteria can penetrate the mucus and reach down to the epithelia. And of course, if you have bacteria reaching down to the epithelia, you can trigger inflammation. And so what you get is you get the defective inner mucus layer, which is allowing bacteria to penetrate. And by that, of course, you're starting to get inflammation. We have looked into patients with this, and it turns out that you have if you are in remission, you don't have any major changes. But if you have an active disease, you have less of the MAC2 mucin and also a few other proteins which are important for that. And this is a very local effect. You also can see that the number of sentinel goblet cells are disappearing. So in the normal case, you have in the humans, you have more than one. You have around 10 per crypt. And in remission, you have about the same number. But if you get active disease, you are losing the number of goblet cells. And of course, this is easily understandable, as I told you before. When you get these cells activated, they are releasing and then shooting themselves out. And since it takes time to renew them, there will be a depletion. And of course, that means that you are leaving the crypt open for bacteria to penetrate, which is, of course, easily understood. But what is even more important is that it is the bacteria you have in the intestine which is affecting and promoting the mucous system. So this is a very simple experiment, really. It is having the mouse in two different animal rooms. And in one animal room, this is what we have used for normal bacteria and normal mouse, is that you have this 50 micrometer separation of bacteria from the host. But in another room with another bacteria in the intestine, you can see that the bacteria can penetrate more and further down and closer to the epithelia. They don't reach the epithelia, but they come further down into it. And if you then look in the germ-free animals, then in this case, bacteria, if you add it to the mucus, you can penetrate all the way down to the epithelium. But what happens is if you then take bacteria from this animal here and give it to the germ-free, you recover this phenomena. If you take bacteria from this one and give it to germ-free, you recover this one, which means that the bacteria in some way can control and stimulate the system. And this is probably one of the main reasons for differences, for example, between India and the US, is that in US you have a more depleted bacterial system because you're living much cleaner and you're using much more antibiotics and so on. So you change your bacterial composition, and by that you can alter these systems. We've also made an experiment where we took germ-free animals. We took normal animals, normal mice, and gave them what we call a Western diet. That is a diet. Normal mice eat a very fiber-rich diet, but we took away the fiber and replaced that by fat, and it means that you can see here, this is the or the mouse epithelial cells, and here you have the bacteria. And already after 3 days, you can see that more bacteria penetrates through this inner mucus layer and come closer to the epithelia here. Which means that it's not only which bacteria you have, but it's also what you feed the bacteria with, because the bacteria are using, in the normal case, fibers from the food, and then they're using that for metabolism and probably signaling by short small molecules to the epithelia here to generate a much more dense. So it is important to maintain this system with an inner mucus layer having bacteria of the right type and feeding the bacteria with the right content. This is extremely complicated and difficult, of course, to figure out exactly how this works and which bacteria are the important ones. Finally, I just would like to point out also from this paper coming out next week is that these Intercrypt goblet cells are important for protecting the colon, because it turns out that we have mucus defects in the Intercrypt area, both in the active ulcerative colitis patients, but also in the remission patients, which are the ones that have no inflammation for the moment, but which quite often comes back and get more of the inflammation. And it turns out that it is really these Intercrypt goblet cells which are the most important ones for protecting or forming a very robust and functional inner mucus layer. So this is a brand new observation which wasn't understood before. So to finalize is that we have a two-layered mucous system in the colon. We have an inner mucus layer which is physically separating the bacteria from us, and we have an outer mucus layer where the bacteria can eat and degrade the mucins, and by that generate short fatty acids, which is then feeding us back. If there is more bacteria penetrating, stimulating the sentinel goblet cells, increasing the production and emptying the goblet cells, you will generate insufficiency in the mucus layer, and by that we will also exhaust the system, because it takes quite a lot of time to make these type of difficult molecules. And if you get more bacteria that reach down to the epithelia here, you generate inflammation, and by that you can trigger what is called ulcerative colitis. So by that, I would just like to finish by saying that there are a number of goblet cells. Goblet cells are much more interesting than has been thought before, and they are very intimately connected into the immune system. The goblet cells also have a very specific secretory mechanisms, and which is different from what has been observed before. This inner mucus layer is the first line of defense in the colon, where the sentinel goblet cells are the second one. And the Intercrypt goblet cells are extremely important for maintaining this inner mucus layer. And these systems are easily exhausted, and if more bacteria come in contact with the epithelia, you trigger a disease which is seen observed in the Western world, which is called ulcerative colitis. So by that, I would like to thank my team, especially Marley Johansson, who's been a long-term co-worker with me, Beatrice, Brendan, Christian, Elizabeth, George, and Lisa, who's contributed significantly to what I talked about, and of course, funding agencies, ERC, and others. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Hansen. I believe this keynote address and your talk was just as good morrow, and would have made this morning very beautiful for the enthusiastic participants of International Science Symposium 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I now invite Dr. Charmi Kothari, co-convener of International Science Symposium 2021, to propose a vote of thanks.
His Excellency, Reverend Bishop Jose Chittupirambil, Bishop, the Diocese of Rajkot, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Saurashtra University, Professor Nitin Bhai Bethani, Professor Girish Bhai Bhimani, other than Dean, Faculty of Science, Professor Gunnar Hansen, Head, Mucin Biology Department, University of Gothenburg, Sweden, Reverend Father Dr. Jorman, Director, Christ Campus, Dr. Yvonne Fernandez, Principal, Christ College, heads of various departments of Saurashtra University, judges, participants, and my dear colleagues. A very good evening to one and all. The root of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation, rightly said by the Dalai Lama. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping the gift and not presenting it. It's not happiness that brings gratitude. It's gratitude that brings us happiness. No matter what language you speak, a kind and smiling thank you always speaks to everyone's hearts. It gives me immense pleasure to stand in front of you to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Christ College as the co-convener of the conference to the August gathering for the International Science Symposium 2021. Organized by the Christ College and sponsored by GSBTM and Gujarat. The main focus of International Science Symposium 2021 is to provide a day full of scientific thoughts where students present work on an important and challenging topic of the recent innovations, which would be further facilitated by interactions with the renowned scientists in the field. At the outset, I would like to express my profound gratitude to His Excellency, Most Reverend Bishop Jose Chittupirambil, for sparing his valuable time and for his presidential address. Thank you, Bishop, for always guiding us in our difficult time and always encouraging us to cross the finish line. Thank you. I would like to convey my deep regards and hearty thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nitin Bhai Pethani, for gracing the inaugural ceremony and sharing with us his vision for science. We thank you, sir, for always trusting us. I extend my warm wishes and gratitudes towards our guest of honor, Dr. Mehul Bhai Rupani, in his absence here. He is the face of youth who not only brings reforms in the system, but also work for the students. I thank you, sir, for accepting our invitations and addressing the students. I would also like to express sincere thanks to Honorable Professor Girish Bhimani, who have been always well-wisher since the inception of our Christ College. Thank you, sir, for believing us in delivering the quality by Christ College. Mucin in health and disease is an important area of research. When Gunnar started exploring mucin biology, nobody believes his instinct for basic research on mucin biology. But today, the things are different. I thank keynote speaker, Professor Gunnar Hansen, Head Mucin Biology Department, University of Gothenburg, Sweden, for accepting our invitation and delivering keynote address on important areas of research. Thank you, sir. Pandemic in the form of COVID-19 has put all of us in the most challenging situation for last 1 year, and our journey still continues. It has redefined few fundamentals of immunity. We are thankful and graceful to Professor Peter Doherty, the Nobel laureate for physiology and medicine in the year 1996, for accepting our invitation gracefully and offered to address the question-answer sessions on COVID-19. This would definitely clear us the doubts about the COVID-19 and the vaccination. I would like to put a note to thank Dr. Snehal Bakhtaria and Dr. Anusuya Lahiri and the GSBTM team for sponsoring International Science Symposium 2021. They have been working very hard in Gujarat State Biotechnology Mission to uplift the biotechnology status in our state. We also extend our gratitude to Dr. Narottam Sahu and Gujarat, the second sponsor of the event. They have been entrusted confidence in our quality of activity since many years. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows us the way. rightly said by John Maxwell, and it correctly defines our leader, Reverend Dr. Father Joman Thomana, the director of Christ Campus. Thank you, Reverend Father, for your critical observations, thinking, and continuous support while the preparation of the symposium. And most importantly, making our understanding and taking care of our needs, and also ensuring that the quality is never being compromised. Thank you for being our mentor, Father. On this occasion, I would like to take an opportunity to extend our wishes to Father Joman for receiving the Pride of Gujarat Award on the behalf of Christ College. It's extremely a proud moment for all of us. I thank our principal, Dr. Yvonne Fernandez, who has been our pillar and mastermind for planning and execution of every event since the day Madam has joined Christ College. We always thank you, Madam, for your continuous support and availability 24/7. Under Madam's forward-looking leadership, we Christites feel inspired and motivated. Thank you, Madam. I also wish to extend a very hearty thanks to all the presenters and delegates for sharing their important works and their findings and opinions today. I thank all the invited judges and the faculty members who have come forward and spared their valuable times to support and encourage the students. I even thank all the participants to join us in the inaugural function. I would also like to thank all the members of the committees and the subcommittees of ISS 2021. Without their untiring dedications, committed efforts and cooperation, this day would have not been possible. I appreciate everyone's contribution from bottom of my heart. We also thank the press and media for providing their kind support and covering the news of this event. I thank each and everyone for their presence in the functions. Dear students, I'm sure it's a good platform for all the delegates to interact with the judges and the participations, though through the virtual mode. And definitely we look forward that these 2 days will be extremely productive for all of us. I wish all of you best of luck. But before I conclude, I would like to request all the judges and participants to join the competition sessions after the inaugural functions. Already the email and the links is being mailed to you. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Charmi ma'am. I hope that this International Science Symposium 2021, organized by Christ College Rajkot and sponsored by GSVTM and Guj Coast, paves a new horizon and way for the participants, as it is said that the intelligent use of science and technology are the tools with which people can achieve a new direction. With this, we come to a close of the inaugural ceremony of International Science Symposium 2021, and I request the participants to leave this meeting and join their respective meeting through the link provided for the technical sessions. Have a scientifically innovative and leading to new direction kind of a day and journey further. Thank you so much.